Is putting integrity into finance a purely positive approach, purely positive phenomenon. Does this work? Like that. We'll do these in chunks. The seemingly never-ending scandals in the world of finance, accompanied by their damaging effects on value of and human welfare, make a strong case for an addition to the current paradigm of financial economics. We summarize here a new theory of integrity that reveals integrity as purely a positive phenomenon with no normative aspects whatsoever. Adding integrity as a positive phenomenon to the paradigm of financial economics provides accessible access rather than mere explanation with no access. The source of the behavior that has resulted in those damaging effects on human value and human welfare, on value and human welfare, and thereby significantly reducing that behavior. More generally, we argue that this addition to the paradigm of financial economics will create significant increases in economic efficiency, productivity, and aggregate human welfare because integrity has generally been treated as a virtue, a normative phenomenon, the actual cause of the damaging effects of out of integrity behavior are hidden, resulting in assigning false causes to those effects. This keeps the actual source of these damaging effects invisible to us. As a result, in spite of all the attempts to police the false causes of these damaging effects, the out of integrity actions are the source of these effects continued to be repeated. Then this new model of integrity makes the actual source of the damage available for all to see and therefore to act on. Integrity as we define it, or lack thereof, on part of individuals or organizations has enormous economic implications for value, productivity, and quality of life. Indeed, integrity is a factor of production as important as labor, capital, and technology. Without a clear, concise, and most importantly, the actionable definition of integrity, economics, finance, and management are far less powerful than they can be. Okay. So let's open a PDF. There we go. Michael C. Jensen, Harvard Business School. All right, that was the abstract as they can be. Okay. Introduction and summary, what this paper is about. This paper presents an extension to the prevailing economic paradigm that reveals a for heretofore heretofore unrecognized critical factor of production. This newly revealed factor of production also creates access to effectively deal with the current failure in oh, let's do this one. Effectively deal with the current failure in financial economics and economic policy, which failure we will shortly specify in section C below. In his landmark book on scientific paradigms, Thomas Kuhn, 1962 to 2002, characterized such failures occurring within a discipline as anomalies and crises that pile up until they argue for an alteration existing paradigm of the discipline. That time check. A warning. No time. All right, we'll just go until I feel like stop it, and then we'll pick it back up. Economics can, in a certain sense, can be seen as a conversational domain. That is, economics can be seen as being constituted by a set of special terms with a precise, often technical meaning, which terms are networked together in rigorous discourse and formula that create access to deal with aspects of life that are otherwise not scientifically accessible. We propose to extend the paradigm of economics by introducing certain new specialized terms that are not currently part of the economics paradigm, and by networking those terms together as to provide access to a currently inaccessible but important aspect of economic life. Because here we are dealing with something currently outside of the prevailing economic paradigm, what is presented and the way it is presented will necessarily be unfamiliar and therefore even strange to most economists. In fact, it may at first appear to be outside of the bounds of economics. However, this should not surprise us because Kuhn makes clear in The Structure of Scientific Revolutions the requirement for change is a scientific paradigm does not arise from even the best current practices of a given science. The best practices were parts of normal science, an enterprise that, as we have already seen, aims to redefine, extend, and articulate a paradigm that is already in existence. Page 122. But the interpretive enterprise, normal science, can only articulate a paradigm, not correct it. Paradigms are not corrigible, changeable by normal science at all. And these anomalies and crises that show up within the current paradigm are terminated not by deliberation or interpretation, but by a relatively sudden and in unstructured event like the Gestalt switch. Scientists often speak of lightning fast that inundates a previously obscure puzzle, enabling its components to be seen in a new way. No ordinary sense of the term interpretation fits these flashes of intuition through which a new paradigm is born. It has been said that anomalies requiring a shift in paradigm are first explained away, and when that fails, are simply ignored until someone recognizes that the anomalies have actually risen to the level of crisis. See the following section. Kuhn warned us that the first expressions of a shift of paradigm are likely to be confound and annoy scholars and scientists before the moment of the Gestalt insight, or as Kuhn also put it, before the lightning flash occurs. Failures in the world of finance that can call for a shift in the financial paradigm. In the world of finance, there is an unrelenting and seemingly endless stream of reports and value destroying behavior by individuals, groups, and organizations, ranging in the current era from the savings and loan scandals of the 1980s to the more recent scandals involving mortgage-backed securities, bank manipulation of Libor rates, the banks facilitating clients' tax evasion. Such scandals infect non-financial organizations as well. Note, Toshiba Corporation's write-off of over 1.2 billion in mid-2015, and it will likely incur another multi-billion dollar write-off in the remainder of 2015. In addition, Volkswagen has been rocked by emissions scandal for installing sophisticated defeat devices software in the control module of diesel engines produced between 2008 and 2015. The software senses when the car is being tested for pollution output and allowed the cars to pass emission tests, even though the cars emitted 10 to 40 times the legal amount when on the road. On September 25th, 2015, CNN Money reported the following: shares of Volkswagen have plunged nearly 30% since the news of the automaker's Clean Air Act violations first surfaced last Friday. The stock is now more than 50% below the 52-week high that it hit in March. For short, we refer to the relentless stream of these new scandals. For detailed summary of just seven of what we refer to as the scandals. The fact is that these scandals keep arising in spite of ongoing and varied attempts to curtail such behavior amounts to, if not an outright failure of economics and finance, at least an obscure puzzle in this discipline. The persistence of these scandals, in spite of all the efforts to curtail them, a perfect example of Kuhn's anomalies and crises within the prevailing paradigm, is, we argue, strong evidence for the prevailing financial economics paradigm requires a transformation. Integrity revealed as purely positive phenomenon creates access to this transformation. In the paper, we argue that integrity, as it's defined and modeled in this paper, is revealed as purely positive phenomenon. Revealed and dealt with in this way, integrity provides finance scholars and practitioners access to effectively dealing with the onslaught of scandals in the world of finance, and to do so in ways that lead to increased organizational performance. Moreover, form of form a broader perspective integrity as a purely put a positive phenomenon revealed as a factor of production as important, for example, as knowledge, a technology, entrepreneurship, human capital, and physical and social capital. And from more personal perspective, integrity as a positive phenomenon results in substantial increases in human welfare, including increased personal power and quality of life, personal well-being, quality of family and personal lives, and personal performances. Our invitation. What we say about integrity here will stretch most of us. To start with, because the current economic mindset, integrity automatically occurs as a normative, most economists will dismiss it as out of hand. However, if you can bear with us for more than a few paragraphs, you will see in the next section that as integrity is defined and distinguished in this new model, integrity is revealed as a purely positive phenomenon with no normative aspects whatsoever. This is a result of doing no more than using the first two of three current dictionary definitions of integrity and leaving out the third, which confuses integrity with morality and sincerity. Given this new model's radical departure from the popular meaning of current understanding of integrity, or more specifically, given the radical departure from the way in which integrity has historically occurred for most of us, we ask you, our reader, to suspend judgment of each of the elements of the model until the whole has been laid out. Moreover, as we said earlier, because this paper we're dealing with something currently outside the prevailing economic paradigm, and in addition, outside the current worldview or mindset of most economists. What is presented and the way it's presented will necessarily be unfamiliar and therefore even strange to most economists. In fact, given the way integrity currently occurs for most people, it will at first seemingly be outside of the bounds of or irrelevant to economics. Nevertheless, given what this model will provide, if it turns out to be valid, access to effectively dealing with scandals, revealing a heretofore hidden factor of production, and, from a more personal perspective, a substantial increase in human welfare. We ask our readers to stay with us until the end of the paper, including staying with anything that occurs as a counterintuitive or even just strange or irrelevant. As is often the case In altering a paradigm, we must reach outside economics as it generally thought of and draw on insights from other disciplines. The roots of what we are dealing with in this paper are from the discipline of an ontology, the science of nature of being. In this case, the nature of being a person of integrity or other human entity of integrity. While we await the result from a large-scale empirical tests of the impact of integrity as we define it, those tests may or may not have been done. Um, as we model its implementation, we suggest that those who desire more immediate empirical evidence perform your own empirical test by experimenting with putting integrity as we define and model it into your own personal life, your family life, and your professional life. See if you observe the predicted effects of integrity or its absence on workability and therefore on your opportunity for performance, not to mention its impact on the quality of life for you and those around you. We predict that you will see firsthand a real impact on reducing the messes in your life, no matter how inevitable they may have looked, or increasing the quality of your personal or professional life, on the trust of on the trust others place in you, on your productivity and performance, and finally on your personal well-being. Integrity defined. In our positive theory of integrity, integrity is defined as the state of being whole, complete, unbroken, unimpaired, sound, and in perfect condition. For short, this paper we often refer to as whole and complete. This unambiguous definition, virtually word for word, the first two definitions of integrity in the Webster's Dictionary 1998, does not define a virtue. There is nothing inherently good or bad, that is, virtuous or otherwise normative, about the state of being whole, complete, unbroken, unimpaired, sound, in perfect condition. An object, system, person, or human entity, such as a corporation, is just whole and complete in this or that aspect, or it isn't. Note that being whole and complete produces maximum workability, which results in maximum opportunity for performance. Of course, we will fully explicate this later. To complete this definition of integrity, we will also fully specify exactly what must be whole and complete. Object. For an object to be in integrity, system. For a system, uh, a corporation, when dealt with as a system, to be in integrity. Person, for a human being, a person to be in integrity. Other human entity, for a human entity, integrity. For now, suffice it to say that the nature of integrity for an object or system is different and distinct from the nature of integrity for an individual human being and or other human entity. Of course, a human being or a human entity can be dealt with as an object or as a system. But in case of integrity, we will show that for a human being, person, or other human entity, such as a corporation, integrity is a matter of the person or corporation's word, nothing more, nothing less. For a person or a human entity to be in integrity, that the person's or human entity's word must be whole, complete, unbroken, unimpaired, sound, in perfect condition. We explicate what is said in this paragraph in details. Finally, in this model, a person's word or human entity's word is whole and complete, is in integrity. When the person or human entity's word is kept or when it is not kept, it is honored as we define honor, where we provide a full explanation of honor, appendix, full explication of the six components of one's word. Empirical evidence. Up to now, we have not been able to run formal large-scale empirical studies. I believe this was done in 1998, so maybe they have done them by now. of the impact of integrity on human performance. We are now in the process of formulating and funding a large-scale empirical tests that begin in 2014 and will run, okay, this is probably like 2000s, run a number of years. We look forward to the results of the empirical studies. We are currently engaged in analyzing a case study, the observable experiences of a Wall Street firm that has spent several years implementing integrity as a model, as we model it, into their cultures. We also have our own experiences with the impact of this model of integrity on our personal and professional lives. So whichever firm that they're doing this with is probably one of the top firms. In addition, we regularly receive feedback, solicited, unsolicited, and non-random, from instructors and attendees of seminars, programs, and courses, and include our positive model of integrity from thousands of participants in such events, ranging from students to top-level executives, consultants, and scholars. We consistently have received feedback taking on integrity as a positive phenomenon has resulted in substantial increases in their personal power and quality of life, including personal well-being, quality of their family, and personal lives and personal organizations' performance as well. In addition, Steve Zaffron, the CEO of the consulting firm Levenson Group and a co-author of more general paper on integrity, reports the following experiences with several Vanto Group clients that applied earlier versions of this positive model of integrity in their organizations. Steve reports the following. Magma Copper Company in Tucson, Arizona, first large client, 1992 to 1995, took on a project to measure the company's integrity by measuring promises made and kept. The promises made and not kept using a computer program designed for this project. The employees of Magma reported each promise they made with no distinction between large promises or small promises. Just any promise made was the data point to measure. Weekly, they reported promises kept and promises not kept. When employees did not keep a promise, they acknowledged and announced they were not keeping their promise. When one will not be keeping one's word, is the first step in maintaining one's integrity, which is accomplished by honoring one's word. For the definition discussing of honoring one's word, this was done for the 3 years Vanto worked with them until they were acquired by BHP. Now BHP Billiton, when acquired, they were valued at 3 times what they had been valued at when Vanto first started working with them. Over 3 years of this engagement, the integrity statistic moved from 65 to 75 to 80% and correlated with significant rise in productivity and decrease in costs. A large chain of petrol stations, a client in the Netherlands during the period of 2006 to 7, also measured, so this must have been done after 08, measured the company's integrity by measuring promises made, promises kept, and promises not kept. As a part of the breakthrough project Vanto conducted with them during a 2-year period, company experienced a 58% increase in net profit, along with increase in customer satisfaction. Vanto also conducted a breakthrough project in the Netherlands 2012 with a prime contractor for Airbus. The intended breakthrough was delivering critical parts to Airbus on time and to the specs. In other words, being good for their word, or in short, acting with integrity, an area in which, according to Airbus, our client needed an immediate breakthrough. As a part of this project, our client measured promises that were kept and actions promised and not kept, but honored, acknowledged to their customer not kept, along with a statement of by when it would be kept, and a cleanup to the degree possible of the damage imposed on their customer. During the year of this project, this client experienced 25% to 40% increase in productivity run across various divisions of the firm. More specifically, the programs that used to run 40% over plan time to build to specs for a part for the new Airbus A350 was a significant financial loss, not to mention a loss of morale. Now on run on time as promised to Airbus as a result of this on time, on spec performance breakthrough. Our client received a letter of recognition from Airbus. The client transformed themselves from a non-reliable supplier on the verge of being never worked with ever again to one of Airbus's most reliable suppliers and partners. But boom, we'll continue.